I lost you there.
Ty Burrell,
There.
last time you joined us, you were a one-time Emmy winner. That was a year ago, and now you're a two-time Emmy winner. Tell us about the night of your second win.
As unexpected as the first one. We had such a great night, my wife and I. I think there's that feeling, and I think it's a natural thing that there's the ebb and flow of a show, and we were pretty convinced that that wave had crested on the show, and consequently for us. So it was a great surprise. We go into these basically, especially at this point, just grateful to be in the conversation, grateful to be there, and still that people still feel like we belong there. I feel so lucky that we've had this run. We're going to this Emmys. My wife and I are going to this Emmys to just try to soak it up and enjoy it, because I think it's a pretty natural thing for these kinds of things to come to an end in terms of the critical side of it, and we're just going to enjoy it and not have any expectations.
Well, you mentioned the ebb and flow, and because of that, I think more than any other reason, I was the only person on our website, at least among the editors and experts, predicting you last year. I knew what kind of episode you had, which had the physical as well as the emotional, with your daughter, and I just really felt.
There you are.
It froze for a second there.
Yeah. You said that you knew the episode. That's where I lost you.
Oh, I said last year, because of the ebb and flow like you talked about, not for any other reasons, I was the only one on the website predicting you'd win last year. And but I knew it was going to be the case, because I really felt like that was the episode that had the right mix.
Well, that's awesome of you. I think, I really don't believe that this is, not only do I feel like it's sort of natural for these things to come and go, at a certain point, it almost feels like, and I think that the writing on our show has stayed so consistent, but I also want to see some of these other shows and actors and things recognize that I admire. We all do. Right now, I'm kind of, I'm sort of campaigning for Keegan-Michael Key. I really think that he deserves this award. I think in a way, it would be an award for he and Jordan. And I think that they, having been on their show a couple of times, you see how hard they work. And I know from Keegan how much time they put in pre and post, and I just think that there's nobody that's done or is doing what they're doing. So if I had a vote, I would vote for Keegan, and I guess I'm also just encouraging other folks to vote for him too. That's, by the way, no disrespect at all to the other actors in the category. I think Tony is so amazing and just one of the nicest guys in the world, and I don't really know the other guys, but I'm a big admirer of what they do. But if I had my way, I think it should be Keegan's.
Well, don't campaign for other people. That's not right. But I think I could see where, and I want to ask you about this too, now that I know you like variety sketch. They've created that new variety sketch category, which I think is amazing, because there are so many good ones now.
Yes. Yeah, I'm really happy for that too. I think those guys and Amy Schumer and just lots of people are doing really interesting really interesting stuff. You know, I'm not a comedian, but I am a little bit of like just a comedy nerd. I love to sort of like track where things are at, and I can't keep up with it anymore. It's like so much of other television right now. There's so much good television right now, but in the comedy world, there's just more and more and more. You know, it's pretty great.
Well, for this year's Emmys, you've submitted the episode Crying Out Loud, which in a particular portion of it is just a real callback to like the silent movie era.
Yeah, I really appreciated that episode. I think Megan Gantz is just a really talented writer, and she wrote that episode. I genuinely love physical comedy. I think, like anything else, it can be, you know, it can be cheesy and sort of like the cheapest form of comedy, but it can also be the best. And I've done it poorly and been, you know, in the former category. And occasionally you do it all right. And I just think when it's good, it's really pure and cool. And I love all of those old films. I'm a big Buster Keaton fan, and a big Laurel and Hardy fan, a big Chaplin fan. And that was definitely, that show was an homage to those folks, really.
The thing I loved at the beginning of that episode is you are as excited about Senior Ditch Day as the kids are.
Yeah. I think that I've been the beneficiary of some of the most consistent writing, and I think that's partly why the show has won 5 in a row, is because our writers are just so strong. But you just at this point, you just really don't get an episode from our writing staff that feels like, well, that doesn't seem, you know, in character. They have such a sense for where everybody is at in terms of like the character consistencies and what a character is capable of emotionally and what's kind of inbounds and out of bounds. And that episode was totally, you know, is pure Phil.
The other thing I liked in that physical comedy section where you're on the stage, Nolan really holds his own with you. Did you have to teach him a trick or two, or is he just?
Oh no, Nolan's great. Nolan actually does parkour, and he's a pretty coordinated kid. I don't know if this is true or not, but I tend to feel like, you know, some of that physical comedy stuff has benefited from like having played some sports or whatever. And it feels to me like, if I'm watching somebody I admire, you know, watching a dancer do it is always amazing too. But Nolan's a natural, I think.
I talked to one of your co-creators, Steve Levitan, a few weeks ago. We talked about several of the episodes, but I specifically wanted to ask him about the season finale, which was American Skyper. He said it was just pure torture for you not to be able to act with the other actors in the same room.
I am such a, I guess you'd call it a bit whore. I just love getting into the longest, dumbest bits on set. Jesse and I tend to spin out on some of the stupidest ideas that have ever been conceived. And in that way, I'm sort of like, I guess I'm socially, I didn't realize how needy, how much I you know, crave that interaction. So I spent that entire episode in a room, you know, off to the side, and I could hear them all laughing and doing bits, and I'm basically trying to crawl to the top of the facade of the hotel room and just try to listen to what they were laughing about, and sobbing myself to sleep in a fake hotel room.
Well, it fit. I'm sure that informed your acting decisions because Phil was in the same boat. He's stuck in another city and can't interact with the family either.
Right, exactly. I really love that episode. I thought it's such an interesting. I like the cliffhanger a lot. I thought it was such an interesting way to kind of continue that will they won't they, but now it's through the same technology that is these are supposed to be incredibly like advanced technologies, and for the most part they are, but in some ways they're frustrating. For example, your face has been frozen on my screen for the last 8 minutes, and that kind of a thing where at the end of that episode the sound goes out. I deal with that constantly because I travel a lot and I'm away from my family, and you're just trying to kind of connect with your kids or something, and all of a sudden there's a ghost in the machine.
It froze again there for a second. I'm hoping the actual YouTube video is going to be perfect, though.
Oh yeah, that's fine.
The thing I loved about that episode, and I mentioned this to your reps a few weeks ago when we were just chatting about episodes of Modern Family, and I just said, I think even though you were on screen and not, in the room with the family, I think it might have been your best performance I've seen on Modern Family.
Wow.
It was so complicated to do what you did and make it feel like that, what that stand or whatever you were on, and then the screen of the computer, you just made it feel like a living object.
Well, the segue did all the work, Chris. It was really fun to do. I mean, I got a ton of help. I got a lot of help from the effects folks about basically trying to help me to coordinate where I'm looking, if that makes sense, because I'm not in the room. So you can't really do it just in the same way that if you're looking at the camera, you have to kind of approximate where the people are standing in the room and then try to make it look like you're looking at them. It was all too complicated for my tiny brain, and I had some really good help.
One last question, and we were talking about Steve and of course Chris Lloyd. We interviewed him this summer as well.
Yeah,
I didn't realize. I think until recently that how they have divided that the episodes up among the two different writing staffs. Is that easy from an acting standpoint? Dealing with a different, basically a different sort of a staff each week, or from episode to episode, or what are the complications from your end on that?
There haven't been yet. It really has been a thing where I think it's ended up being a benefit to the show, because essentially you have a showrunner who's able to run a cable series, if that makes sense. They're both running what amounts to be a little bit less than what a normal series would run on HBO or something, 13 episode or 12 episodes each. And I really think that it's helped the quality a lot. We have a great time on set with, it's rotated. One of the showrunners and then whoever wrote that episode that week. And we always have fun on set with whomever's there. I just think it's actually been a real benefit to the quality of the show. I would seriously consider that if you were starting a new show right now. I think it would be a very smart thing to do if you're doing a full network slate.
Is there a different feel from week to week? Does it feel?
No, because not in terms of the content at all.
Just maybe in style. Just is there any difference at all?
I think Steve's a little more animated. Chris is probably a little bit quieter, but we're bonded to those guys in different ways, in the same way you are with different cast members. They're both very smart, and I think Steve is more of a visual guy, and Chris is probably more I think enjoys a little bit more like the nuts and bolts of the acting and stuff, and that's why Steve directs so much and does such a good job with directing. Is I think he likes, and he's also a tech guy too. And Chris is very, very, very not. He has a flip phone, cell phone, and I think he tends to like to kind of have, be more about, when he's on set, be a little bit more about the writing and talking to the actors and stuff.
Well, tell us, season 7. Have you already started production?
Yeah, we're 3 in actually, and the writing's been the same. I mean, really, it kind of blows your mind. The first episode back, I always forget how to act. I really, like, the first day of our first episode back, it's almost like hallucinating or something. Like I've been working, pretending I'm a producer for most of the summer, trying to produce television stuff, and I haven't been in front of a camera in a while. And you'd think that kind of thing, after doing it for this long, wouldn't happen. But I literally was there going like, oh yeah, we do this in front of people. And I have to make sure my face is in front of the camera, and I have to remember the words. So that's always kind of funny. And it seems like all the actors are sort of in the same boat. But we always end up getting the first episode up to speed. But the others are, all of them I think are pretty strong.
Well, give us a couple of tidbits. Where does this season kick off?
What can I and can't I say? Well, there's we pick up right where we left off with Haley and Andy, and I can't really give too much away there, but that cliffhanger is that's where we start. Right now, there's a storyline happening where Phil comes across some duck eggs, and essentially, because the kids are starting to move out of the house, becomes a little obsessive about these duck eggs and wanting to sort of nurture them and take care of them. And that's a several episode arc of him basically wanting to raise these ducks in place of the kids.
I can see that, and I don't know that would go over with Claire too well.
No. Right now, the latest thing is that the ducks end up at the moment have imprinted on Claire after Phil has put in all this work, and of course it drives him crazy.
Any trips this year? Almost every season you've had an episode or two away from your typical surroundings.
I don't know. I hope so. I love them. As long as the writing staff isn't feeling overwhelmed, I love them. It's really about preserving the sanity of the writers. The Australia trip, we've gone on some amazing trips, and for the most part, they've also been really fun and have kind of fit somewhere into the season. The Australia trip was tough because the writers were really it was at the end of the season, and we definitely got through it as a group, but I think we've now we want to make sure we pick our spots with those trips and don't have people sort of just I think the writing was still amazing. It was more just about like wanting them to make sure they feel not too overburdened.
Yeah, 2 of our editors are in Australia, and they said, but even before you got there, and then certainly when you got there as a group, it was like the Beatles coming to their country.
That was crazy. That really was crazy. I think it's been, that whole thing has been pretty bizarre about the international side of television, which that was just not something I was aware of before the show happened. That syndication to all these markets would mean something like that. But yeah, it is really crazy. My wife and I were in Abu Dhabi and Dubai early this summer, and it is sort of surreal. It really does feel like an hallucination where you can't believe that that the show has a following, literally across the world, and that has its ups and downs. I mean, it's unbelievably amazing to have the show appreciated and to have the job stability, for sure. I would not trade it. There's under no circumstances would I trade the situation. But you also become a little bit more of a homebody, get a little protective of the kids and stuff like that. But overall, it's mostly a joyful thing.
Well, you've brought a lot of joy to us over the years, and so I was as thrilled, probably maybe not as you and your wife, but I was as thrilled maybe in that next tier for your win last year. So good luck again here in a few weeks.
Thanks so much, Chris. I really appreciate it. It's always good to talk to you.
Yeah, great to talk to you.